There was comments such as, "You lot sit over there near the toilets," elephant washers, the word was used constantly, and there just seems to be an acceptance in the institution from the leaders, and no one ever stamped it out.
What do you think, Henry?
For people who don't follow cricket, they've got to understand what this means and how big this is. I mean, we're talking about Yorkshire, the greatest county side, won more championships than any others. Great players like Brian Close, Fred Truman, Ray Illingworth. They talk about White Rose values in God's own county. And then you have a guy, Barnsley, born and bred, but also fused with Karachi. He should be exactly the kind of person who should thrive in a modern, dynamic game, in a county that wants to embrace all the talent, all the diversity among the population it serves. But he lifted up the stone and he said the quiet part out loud, and what appeared was ugly, nasty, horrible. And it's exactly the opposite of what cricket is supposed to be.
He said he decided to expose what was going on after receiving little help after the stillbirth of his first son.
I've just carried my son from the hospital to the graveyard, and how I'm getting treated here is not right. And to me, it became very clear that even myself, that I'd been looking the other way. And there's a real problem here, not just Yorkshire, throughout the country. And I'm going to be the one that's going to speak about this.
What do you think, Anne?
What appalled me was how recent some of it is. If this was something that happened 20 years ago, I'd say, well, look, that's bad, but everything's changing and it's generational again. But some of this is very, very recent. Yes. And honestly, if you force somebody down on their back and that person's a Muslim and you pour wine down their throat, which is what he alleges happened.
Prior to the Yorkshire Club.
That is an act of criminality. I mean, there's no doubt about it. It's criminal assault. Mm-hmm. So it is worrying. What worries me is that it is so recent. Look, some of it is so recent, some of it isn't. But I always say, let's look at the future. The past can be instructive, but let's look to the future and let's hope good comes out of it.
Mm. This is what the former Yorkshire Cricket Club chairman said yesterday.
There was a clear resistance to see Azeem as the victim, a clear resistance to apologise.
And the problem, Henry, I guess, is that when this all came out, you had the classic thing where it's dismissed as banter.
That's right.
Absolute classic.
That's right. And including by a panel inquiry, a supposedly independent inquiry panel that included 2 or 3 Asian guys on it who were being treated to hospitality by Yorkshire at the same time as they were doing the inquiry. And Azeem Rafiq pointed out to the hypocrisy of that. Because banter is, yes, chit-chat, having a laugh. But I mean, when you're the victim of it and when it questions your humanity, your fitness to be in the team, who you are, it can't be dismissed. And one of the most important things Azeem Rafiq said, and he was very calm about it, he said, it's not about Michael, as in Michael Vaughan, the former Test-winning captain. But I mean, when Michael says he can't remember it, he probably can't because it meant nothing to him. That was clinical. It meant nothing to him. It meant everything to me.
What do you do, Anne, now then? It's not like Michael Vaughan has been swept into it. He denies it. He says he doesn't remember, etc. Do you try and punish people, or do you say, let's have a new start?
I actually would prefer to say, let's have a new start. But, all this has been exposed. People are punished by exposures like that. And I would prefer to say, let's have a new start. The line between banter and insult is always very fine, but if you have crossed that line and the person protests and you persist, then that takes it into the nasty realms. Yeah. So there is such a thing as banter, and banter can sometimes, particularly in men's sports, it can sometimes be, beyond what you would find in normal social circumstances, but there is a line, and when you cross that line, you apologise.